Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best x86 powered handheld gaming devices of 2022. Now, if you follow this scene, we've had quite a few released in 2022. Some of them were flops, some of them were absolutely amazing, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at 8 of them that we've had on the channel. Now these are ones that I've personally reviewed, and by the end of the video I'm going to give you my top 3 recommendations going into 2023. And we'll definitely have a clear winner here, but keep in mind these are x86 based handhelds, so we're not working with ARM chips. It's got to either be using an Intel CPU or an AMD CPU. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we're going to start off here with the ONEXPLAYER Mini Intel version. Now this is actually the Gundam edition. Personally, a huge fan of Gundam. I love the color scheme here. I think it looks absolutely amazing. Form factor is great. We've got a 7-inch 1200p IPS display, and it does support Thunderbolt 4. But one of the big downsides to the ONEXPLAYER Intel version is the Intel CPU. This is using the i7-1260p, and don't get me wrong, CPU performance here is great, but the iGPU is lacking when it comes to a handheld gaming device. It's using Iris Xe graphics, and we do have DDR5, but it really can't keep up with some of the other handhelds that were released this year based on RDNA 2 architecture when it comes to those integrated graphics. Now, connecting an eGPU to this definitely opens it up, and in my experience, I've had much better performance using real Thunderbolt 4 on an Intel platform over USB 4 on a Ryzen, but a lot of people are picking these handhelds up to game on the go. They don't want to kind of dock this all the time. Next on the list, we've got the AYANEO Next Pro. Now, there's no doubt when Aya showed up to the scene, they really did change the handheld game. A lot of manufacturers kind of followed suit, and with the Next and even the Pro, they did add some features here to these gaming handhelds that we haven't seen in the past, like Hall sensor-based analog joysticks and an awesome cooling system. Now this one's powered by the Ryzen 7 5800U, 8 cores, 16 threads with Vega 8 graphics. And yeah, we can take the TDP up quite high on this to get really great performance out of the CPU, and given that we're working with Vega, they perform absolutely amazingly for what it is. But what really held this back was the price point. These came to the market starting at around $1,200, and you can go on up to around $1,650 depending on the storage and RAM variants. And for the performance it's putting out, it's just a bit pricey. Here we have a relatively newer player to the market, AOKZOE. Now this is kind of a sister company of ONEXPLAYER or OneNetbook, so they do have experience with handhelds. We've seen the ONEXPLAYER, the ONEXPLAYER Mini, and things like that. So they did have some help in designing this and the manufacturing process, and this thing is actually putting out some really good performance. It's powered by the Ryzen 7 6800U. We've got RDNA 2 graphics. You can get this with up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. It also supports USB 4, and one of my favorite things about this is the larger display when you compare it to other handhelds on the market. We've got an 8-inch IPS display at 1200p. But one of the downsides to this unit is the D-pad. Now it does work, and in my initial review of the prototype unit, that was kind of my main concern. And with the retail unit, they did swap out that D-pad, but in my opinion, it's just not as good as the other competitors on the market. So it really does kind of hold this back when you want to play fighting games on the go. I'm just not a big fan of the D-pad they used here. It's a bit tight, and it's kind of one of those dish style that you see on like the Xbox Elite controllers that you can swap out. And I was actually hoping that they were going to have kind of a swappable D-pad on this, but unfortunately they didn't go with that idea. We also saw the AYANEO Air and the Air Pro, and I really do like the design of this. We've got a 5.5-inch OLED display. It's a lot smaller than any of the other handhelds in this list here, or most of the other x86 handhelds that have ever been released. And if you're looking for a more portable device, then this one would probably be for you. It's actually got some pretty decent specs given the form factor here also. It's got a Ryzen 7 5825U with 8 cores and 16 threads up to 4.4 GHz with those Vega 8 graphics, LPDDR4 RAM, but unfortunately, given the form factor here, we are a little limited by thermal constraints and battery life when it comes to this CPU in such a small form factor handheld. Another one we recently got in 2022 is the ONEXPLAYER Mini Pro 6800U version. I've already said it, but yeah, I do like the form factor of these ONEXPLAYER Minis. This one is a bit different. We've got the RGB on the sides, which really does set it off. It's fully controllable. a 7-inch 1200p IPS display, and of course we've got that Ryzen 7 6800U. So we've got the RDNA 2 graphics here. We can go up to around 35 watts on this unit, and it offers absolutely amazing performance. Now, if you've seen any of the 6800U laptops or handhelds, you know this does put out some awesome iGPU power. And we've also got LPDDR5 running at 6400 MHz, which really does make a difference. And by the way, you can pick up the black variant, which we have here, and they also offered a white variant with that 6800U APU. Now it's time to move over to the top 3 handhelds, in my opinion, of 2022. And coming in at number 3 is the GPD Win Max 2. Now, a lot of people really didn't consider this a handheld, and I completely understand it's more of a UMPC. But we've got those built-in controls with a beautiful 10.1-inch IPS display, and if you've got smaller hands, then this one probably isn't for you. But this has been one of my go-to little gaming devices / workhorses. And GPD did release the Intel and the Ryzen version. If you're thinking about getting one of these, go with the Ryzen. It's got the 6800U, but you've got more than enough I/O on this mini PC / handheld gaming device. And we can get this with up to 32 gigabytes of DDR5 at 6400 MHz. We've got that 10.1-inch IPS display at 2560 by 1600. You can add 2 M.2 SSDs in here, and the cooling system is great. I mean, we've been able to take this up to around 45 watts, which is definitely pushing it, but the cooling system will handle it. And it does support USB 4, so connecting an eGPU is really simple with the GPD Win Max 2. Coming in at number 2 is the AYANEO 2. Now, there's no denying that this is an awesome handheld device. I personally love this thing. Bezel-less design, absolutely beautiful screen. It's not an OLED display, it is IPS, but it's really, really close. We've got 2 USB 4 ports, and there's several different RAM and storage variants that they offer, plus they have a few colors to choose from. I just love the design here. I think it looks good, feels great in the hand. It's got one of the best D-pads that I've ever tested on any device, and it's powered by the Ryzen 7 6800U, so we've got the RDNA 2 680M iGPU and LPDDR5 RAM. We've also got Hall sensor-based analog sticks, and Aya is working on their own Linux operating system known as AYANEO. Hopefully I can get my hands on it soon so we can test it out on this device, but it is a great performer. So overall, we've had some really amazing x86 gaming handhelds release in 2022, but one does stand above the rest, and you probably saw this coming. But in my opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree, the best x86 powered handheld of 2022 is the Steam Deck. They're easy to get now. Nobody else can beat this price because this is coming from a really large company that can actually make money later on from you by buying games on their platform. And they can stand to lose a few bucks on the hardware up front, and that's really what brings the Steam Deck's price down so low. We've got a custom Ryzen APU with RDNA 2 graphics, and of course some of these other handhelds do have more powerful CPUs and even GPUs at higher wattages, but with the optimizations and the power profiles and everything that Valve is using with this, it makes it one of the best performing handhelds on the market. Of course, some of those AAA games have to run at around 30 FPS, 800p, maybe even a little lower with some FSR on, but it's really hard to beat something like this given the price point, performance, and availability. So yeah, best handheld of 2022, obviously, is the Steam Deck. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Really appreciate you watching. We did see some amazing handheld devices in 2022, and I can't wait to see what everybody's got to offer in 2023. Let me know what your favorite handheld of 2022 was in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.